Okay, I think it's time to, it is actually time to go. Good evening. Guilty as charged. I've destroyed a couple of trees tonight for all the paper handouts. You should have four. Do I hear something?
Yeah, we need to. You're a little echoey. Echo.
Sounds like music. Uh, you should have four handouts tonight. We're not going to go through all of those, but some of those will be helpful. Remember, what I'm trying to do is give you some resources that I look at or I come across, and I think is applicable or to either what we're going to be discussing tonight, or something that you might be interested down the road. And again, hopefully you've got that folder, and everything can just kind of fit into that. But anyway, so. Also, a reminder, we have a green family box of questions back there. If you have, I'm still getting that. If you have any questions that you don't feel like you want to ask in class, or if there's not enough time, feel free to put that on an index card and put that in the box there. Okay. The last 2 weeks, we have been focusing on the works of the flesh. We've been looking at these things that influence. We have the threats, the enemies, the dangers, not only inside the home, but influences outside the home. And I am not going to use this if that's going to. And we're going to go on the positive side of the things that we need to do. We are told to put off the old man and put on the new man. And what exactly does that mean? It means that as Christians, am I supposed to put it on now? Okay, maybe we should test this out before we start. Okay? Is it still there?
It's still echoing.
Okay. Let's go ahead. So, what we want to do is tonight look at the fruits of the Spirit. We want to look at the Christian virtues we find in 2 Peter 1 and in Galatians 5, the fruits of the Spirit. And we're also going to spend quite a bit of time looking at 1 Corinthians, that you've got an outline there. That's kind of what I want to be able to do tonight. I want to look at the other side, the things that we can see a strategy, a characteristic, maybe something that we could embody. Because really, when it comes down to it, we have all these scriptures on the home, the family, the roles and responsibilities. But what it comes down to is you and me. And how do we live? How is our walk? Is it consistent with being God-fearing? Is it consistent with being the husband or the wife that we're called to be by God? Is it raising our children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord? Are we doing those things? We know about those things, but the question is, are we doing those things? So that's really what we're going to try to do, is use these fruits of the Spirit, the Christian virtues, what love is, what it isn't, and looking at how we build our relationships in the home and the family, okay? No success can compensate for failure in the home. I came across this, and I put it together like a structure here, and so I thought it would be good to kind of just start as a reminder when we talk about the home and the foundation of the home. We started with Psalm 127, which says what? Unless the Lord builds the house, they who labor in vain. Okay? And that's the foundation. We've got other foundational principles. No other foundation can a man lay. Okay? Jesus Christ being our chief cornerstone. So if that foundation is there, then we look at pillars that support the family. The first one that you see is what? Commitment. Okay? So what does it take? What does that mean when you see that word commitment? Commitment to what or to who? Okay? I think the first thing is your commitment to God. Are you committed to God first? Then what would be the next commitment? John?
Your neighbor, your family, depending on how you want to look at it.
Okay? My hope is if we're talking about family, next commitment would be to your family, to those people that are most dearest to you. I mean, your family. Certainly, it reaches out to love your neighbor as yourself, so you extend that. But it's commitment to be all that you can be to your spouse, to your children. A commitment is what? Okay, jump ahead. It never fails. It's your commitment. What's the vow? For better or for worse? I'm never going to leave you. I am committed. So what's the next one? Trust. Where's our priority? Where do we trust in?
God.
We need to first put our trust in God. We need to put our trust in His Word and know that it's trustworthy and that it is a plan, it's a design that will help us and almost, it will at least set the foundation for what is true and what is solid in our families. What else is trust? Who else do we need to trust? One another, right? We need to be able to trust our kids. So I could go into a lot of elements. There's 5 essential things that build trust, and then there's things that lose trust, and then there's things that we've got to retain trust. But one of the most important things is in order to trust somebody, you need to understand who that person is, and they need to understand you. So that's just a beginning of that. So we've got to be able to trust in His Word and in His design. Respect. My mom used to always say, Robbie, I'd much rather have your respect than your love. And I looked at her and went, you don't want me to love you? She said, no, that's not what I said, but you will respect me. I didn't really understand that until I got in my teenage years and had some experience that I thought, this is exactly what she's talking about. Now in this case, she had my respect, no question about that, but she also had my love. So you certainly want that both ways. So in the workplace, I could be a really nice boss and give people what they want and pay them what they want, but I might lose respect. Okay. So in the workplace, I always tell the team it's more important that we build a relationship based on trust and respect. If you like me, that's great, but I'm not here to be your best friend. Okay? And I think that's true, really, when you think about it as parents. You obviously want your children to love you. But what you really want, more than their love, I would think that you want their trust and their respect. You want it all, but I think if you don't have that, there's parents sometimes that are trying to be their children's best friend. And that didn't work for me. So I think, again, respect is an important pillar, and then the last one, love. And that's really kind of what we're going to focus on tonight, is what kind of love is needed in order to have a strong family structure. Okay? So, with that, Derek, would you open this up with a word of prayer?
Let's all pray. Almighty and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for your wisdom, for bringing us together as a church family and a body to have the times that we have to come together and encourage one another, dig into your word that's been preserved by your Spirit over many hundreds and thousands of years. We thank you for the opportunity that we have to spend this time together. Thank you for blessing us with these relationships of family and for demonstrating to us the utmost example of as a father, and help us all to look to you and example of you and your Son for the kind of love that we should exhibit to those around us. ask you to be with Rob for the things that he's prepared tonight, for all the teachers, and that you be with them at this time. It's through Jesus we pray.
Anybody have a bucket list? You know what a bucket list is? A wish list, kind of a bucket list. Anybody have one? And anybody want to share maybe something that's on your bucket list?
Going to Italy.
Going to Italy, okay? A lot of times when I talk to people, a lot of times they have travel. That's what we want to do. It's what I want to do before I die is when I travel, I want to go to Italy. Another one? Bucket list? Really? Amy?
I mean, as a family, we wanted to hit all the baseball stadiums.
Okay, that's kind of a fun goal. Get all the baseball stadiums as a family. That's even better. On my bucket list, where's Ryan? I'll blame Ryan, but Ryan and Rob and a couple of us here, my bucket list for years and years. Oh, there he is. I'll blame Ryan. But for years and years, one of my bucket lists was to climb Pikes Peak. And finally, Ryan made it happen. And we went up, I think there were 7 of us or so, even though they had to carry me up halfway. But I did it. And every time now I look at the peak, I'm like, yeah, I know what that feels like. Don't ever want to do that again. There's nothing, maybe you don't or do, but one of the things that I think we should share with one another, this got sent to me, and I think it's a good bucket list. You are my bucket list. Think about that one, couples, husband and wives. You're talking about all things you want to do, in your bucket list, and then you get this. How about you put me on your bucket list? Well, you're already on my bucket list. So I looked at that going, that's very true. Our spouses need to be on our bucket list. Let's not forget that. Okay, all right. So what I want to do here is look at love. And in the scriptures, we read of different kinds of love, different types of love. Okay, there's 4 different types. Let's go ahead and just quickly go through those. Somebody give me one.
Filial,
Filial, and what exactly, Rob?
Philadelphia, friend,
Yeah,
friendship.
kind of like a brotherly kindness, brotherly love, friendship. Okay, what's the other love? Eros, okay. Eros love, we think of, you spell that out, kind of, it's erotic love, it's pleasure, it's sexual love, it's things like that. Nothing wrong with that within the confines of marriage. So you have an Eros love, okay. What else? What's that? Okay, agape, we're going to get to that one. There's one more. Has to do with familial or tribal love, a deep affection for family. That's called storge, I think it's pronounced. S-T-O-R-G-E, storge love. And that is more of again, a family, a deep affection for one another. So we look at that, and tonight we're going to look at 1 Corinthians, okay? And when I look at this, how would you define now agape love? Nikki, how do you find that?
The highest form of love there is, I would probably illustrate the kind of love that God has for us.
Okay, it's exactly right. God is love. It's the kind of love that He showed us by sending His only Son. It's the kind of love that Jesus talks about in Matthew 22 when He talks about, you shall love the Lord your God with all your mind, your heart, your soul, your strength. You shall love the neighbor as yourself, the type of love. How else would you define love?
It's a love that wants the best for that person.
It seeks the best. Is it conditional or unconditional? It's unconditional. It doesn't expect anything in return. It's an incredible, deep love that God has for us. Brothers and sisters, we have got to display that with each other in our marriages and in our home. Judge, did you?
Yeah, in my work with couples and specifically contentious couples, I try and get them to realize that they need to put their whole heart into it. It's got to be as important as the most important thing in your life. You have to be willing to fight and at some level die for it, put that above everything if you want it to work out.
Remember, we talked about all these enemies and threats. We asked you to, out of all those, put it in your top three. And then I asked you, out of those top three, name your number one. And my answer was selfishness. To me, everything stems from being selfish. Now, that was mine. You may have come up with something different. I read a study just this past week that said the number one issue is poor communication. I thought, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Anybody got a top?
I would argue that still falls into selfishness because you're so worried about yourself and making your perspective known that you don't communicate with them.
Or you don't want to take the time? Sometimes though, for some of us guys, we don't know how to communicate. We need help. It's not that I'm selfish, it's just that I don't know what to say. Okay, so let's look at 1 Corinthians 13. This is from the New American Standard Version, I believe. I did give you a sheet. I tried to do my best to give you some different translations of these words, because as I looked at each of these words, and I thought about putting the Greek up there, and I'm going, no, I can't even pronounce any of those. If you want to look at the Greek, I can give that to you, but it's a great study on each of these words. I'm sure you've been through a study like this. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous, love does not brag, it is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly, does not seek its own, it is not provoked, does not take into account and long suffer. It does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And I just have verse 8. Love never fails. So, let's look at the worksheet. I'm going to break it down into 2 things: what love is, what love is not, 5 things that love does not do, and 4 things that love does, and then love everything else. So go ahead and feel free to throw that in if you want to use other, if you've got other translations or different words that I don't have there for you, please feel free to share that with me, okay? Here's what I want to do. As we go through these words, I just don't want to look at the words. I want like all of you to think about, what does this look like in our home? Okay? That's really what I'm trying to do here, is I want you to personalize and think about, the first one. Love is patient. Are you patient? What's the other word that's used, translation? Are you long-suffering? Long-suffering. Do you suffer long? Right? Thanks be to God that He is long-suffering on our behalf. Do we have patience with one another? So I'd like to go through, and as we look at each of these, I'd love for you to think about this, and then if you have any examples, good or bad, whether it's your own or you grew up in a particular kind of household, or you've heard about some things, this is a time that we can learn from each other. Okay? So, love is patient, and love is kind. Love is patient, and love is kind. Any thoughts about that? Anyone want to comment?
I guess the way I think of it, it goes to your previous point. Neither of those things are both the opposite of selfishness.
Yeah.
It's, to be kind is to think of somebody other than yourself, and to be patient is to not rely on your own time frames and expectations. So I think that kind of lines up with your.
Love is patient, And am I kind? Kindness. That's a great word. Kind. And an illustration I read was, kindness is when somebody gives you a lemon. And you're like, thank you. Because what they call kindness is like, sour lemon, are you kidding me? Well, that's not being kind, is it? But if you work at Chick-fil-A and then you give me a lemon and go, wow, thank you so much. Because I can make fresh squeezed lemonade. You know how you make lemonade? Linda, how do you make lemonade?
Squeeze the lemon.
There you go. First thing, squeeze the lemon. What's the next thing you add?
Sugar and water.
Sugar and water. 3 ingredients is what? You're missing one ingredient that we have at Chick-fil-A. And you should have it in your home. Attitude. Love. Lemon juice, sugar, water, and love, baby. So, kindness. Okay, 3 things that, yes.
Sorry, I also wanted to add in there, we don't need to be patient and kind with people who are perfect. I mean, we do, but when those come into play, I need patience with my kids when they're acting up. I need kindness with my spouse when they are not behaving the way I think that they should towards me. And so it also speaks to our failures as individuals going, it's easy to be patient when we don't need to be patient with somebody. It's easy to be kind when they're being kind back to us. It's not dependent on the other person. It is long suffering. And so it means that people will fail us. It means that we will fail others. And that's where the love never fails comes into. So it kind of goes full circle.
Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it? It's easy to say, yes, I should be kind, but it's another thing when the children aren't behaving. Yeah, Gary?
Yeah, it ends up, and I didn't look at your sheet to find it, but 2 Peter 3:9, the Lord is not slack concerning his promises, as some count slackness, but is long suffering to you, not wishing that any should perish, but all should come to repentance. That's the kind of long suffering. How many times could God just say, I give up on you? He doesn't.
Yeah, think about Luke 15, in the prodigal son. What about the father? Does he show a characteristic of being long-suffering? I think it's one example we could use. Okay, the next one, 3 things love is not. Love is not jealous, arrogant, or is provoked. What are some of the other words we've got here? Love isn't envious, it's not puffed up,
And we are rude.
it's not easily angered,
Rude.
it's rude, it's not rude. Again, is there a way that we can boast in our relationship in the home? I think Alex was saying last week, hey, hon, look what I did, look what I did. Hey, I got this done, kind of like, hey, look at me, I get brownie points, No, that just kind of comes with the territory, right? Sometimes if we're not careful, we can kind of be puffed up. I know a lot of times that's easy to do in the workplace. Okay? Provoke, easily angry. It wasn't in my home or where I grew up, but there were some friends I would go to that if you said the wrong thing, either to the mother or to the father, they would explode. And I wanted to get out of that house as fast as I could. I went, wow, they're so angry. Why are they so mad? Why are they yelling? Have you ever heard that term, walking on eggshells? In your home, you're not sure, what to do or what to say, and so you're just guarding every step and every word. Yeah. So if we're going to have a good, strong home, a good, happy home, we shouldn't create that kind of environment. We should be mindful of these things that love doesn't do in our home. Okay? So love is not jealous, arrogant, provoked. Anything else you bring up on that? Okay, 5 things that love does not. does not brag, does not act unbecomingly, does not seek its own, doesn't keep score, doesn't rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with So if we truly love, and we want to embody love, agape love, then, again, brag, arrogant, it could be very much the same. Act unbecomingly, what's the other word I've got there? Rude, behaves rude. I mean, you've been in relationships and been in homes and things where people just seem to be rude with one another. Yeah, let's look at the handout. Look at the other handout that I just passed up. The things you never do. Everybody got it in front of you? Okay, how about we have some participation here. Josh, would you read the first four? Sean, you read the next four. Alex, you read the next four. Derek, you read the next four. And if there's anything left over, Nick, you read the rest, okay? Let's go.
We'll start out with the intro. Thank you for the things you never do. You never embarrass me with crude, uncouth remarks. You never criticize me in the presence of others. You never downgrade my personal achievements. You never compete with me.
You never compare me unfavorably with other wives.
Okay, let's stop right there. I should have added, I did in my copy, or other husbands. I mean, women, we have feelings too.
Let's do it.
So, yeah, it works both ways, right? Okay, go ahead, Joe.
You never make me feel unnecessary or unneeded. You never hide behind a newspaper while we're eating together.
Okay, let's stop right there. Obviously, this is dated. What else could you plug in for newspaper?
Cell phone.
Oh, yeah, we all have that. What else?
iPad.
Television, what else?
Book, computer.
What?
Book.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm reading a book, but I'm trying to talk to you. Computer.
Game of golf.
You know, again, part of a great conversation is being in the presence, being totally without distractions. So, okay, good. So next, go ahead, John.
You never refuse to hear me out.
Wait, what?
You never refuse
What?
to hear me out.
Okay.
In a controversial discussion.
Okay, Derek. You never remind.
No, it's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alex. Go ahead.
Okay, you never remind me of past mistakes. You never rule with an iron rod. You never treat my parents unkindly. You never degrade me.
You never betray me. You never deluge me with "I told you so"s. Deluge me. I can't read. Sorry. You never go to sleep without kissing me goodnight.
Yeah.
Copy from the Carpenter's Tool.
You just had to. I'll pick on you later. Yeah, I saw that and I'm going, I think that's a good reminder for me. And I think it's a good reminder for all of us.
Hey, Rob,
Yes, sir.
there was a time when I was not the best at making eye contact. And I think that's kind of being distracted by the book, by the cell phone, by even though I thought I was listening, yet I wasn't really making good eye contact. And that's true with all of our relationships. It's true with whoever it may be in life, but it should especially be true with our children and our spouse. That they've got our full, undivided attention.
Amen. That is so important. Yeah.
The scriptures address that very point. And I think
Go ahead.
perhaps I made this point in one of the lessons sometime back. But in 1 Peter 3, verse 7, it's directed to husbands, but it's followed by the expression "in like manner." Dwell with your wives according to knowledge. There's a lot to be said for the latter part of that statement, but that expression, dwell with, if I understand this definition, means literally to be at home with. And sometimes we are so distracted that we're not at home. Our minds are somewhere else.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard, you know, I so many times, craziness at work, I pull in the driveway and I try to decompress and leave it in the car, leave it in the briefcase, try to be present 100% there for the family. Most of the time that work, sometimes it didn't. And sometimes, especially after the kids went to bed, I went right back to work. I mean, I was in the home, but I'm at work, getting ready for the next day. Josh?
I think another way to say that is, you never exclude me from what's going on in the family choices. Another way to say that is prioritization. If, as a man working, I can prioritize that, oh, I need to provide for my family, that's working for the family. But if you're not on the same page with your wife, in that case, or vice versa now with women working too, you get outside of this communication, you're not on the same page. So that's a different way of saying the same thing.
All right, so you seek its own. Again, I think that speaks to the selfish attitude that we talked already about. Keep score. Ooh, that's a tough one. Ever have an argument? And it's over about this, but then all of a sudden, the list comes out from a year ago and 2 years ago. It's kind of like, oh my goodness, we're talking about stuff that I thought we dealt with last year. Or there's a laundry list of things. I mean, God forgave me. I thought you forgave me. I mean, where is this coming from? It's not good that we should keep score. Okay? Love does not rejoice in what? Unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. You know, when John wrote 3 John, he wrote to Gaius, and he said to Gaius, because he had heard from the brethren, brother, I have no greater joy than to know that you are walking in the truth. Parents, I think we can use that for our children. I have no greater joy for my children than to know that they are walking in the truth. You want a goal for your family? That should be one of them. How do you shoot them back? Shoot those arrows back to the Lord. Okay? All right. So, anything else? Anybody have any comments on this? The other one says, does not rejoice, does not delight in unrighteousness. Okay, so then let's look at 4 things that love does. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Any thoughts on either of those? What's the other words? Bears, I thought bears was an interesting word, because as I looked at different translations, one of the definitions came out to be protects. And I think that makes sense. If you look at the Greek word and you unpack that, it actually means to uncover and to lift off the burdens of somebody else, to bear their burden, to take on. You're protecting them against the weight. So I just have a better appreciation for that word now. Believes all things. Derek?
Yeah, that's always been one. I'm not really sure what that means. I mean, obviously I don't believe everything, but the way I thought about it, right, if someone comes to me and says, okay, well, Amy did something or whatever, right? I'm not going to immediately go, well, but and automatically just take that in, right? It's like we kind of have each other's back,
Right.
And that, that's kind of how I've thought about it.
About bears or believes?
Believes.
Believes. Yeah, you expect the best. That's where trust comes in. I expect the best. I want to look for the best. If we're not doing that in our marriages and with our children, then guess what? You're going to get what you expect. So be careful of what that self-narrative looks like too.
And again, I think it's important to remember it's not just our spouse and kids, but it's everybody, just entire church family. That we should bear one another, believe in all things, hope all things, endure all things. So love never expects the worst of somebody. Love expects the best of somebody. And you're not surprised when the best somebody happens. So.
Great point. And thank you for just making sure, obviously, we're talking this in the context of the home and family, but it extends way into, we're going to have one of our classes on the spiritual family. And what does that entail? And that's a great point to bring up at this point on that. Yes, very good. So again, it believes all things, it hopes all things, it endures all things. And at the end, what does it come down to? Love never fails. Okay? All right, so 1 Corinthians. So Ben had made these cards several weeks ago, and he had them out on the back. But basically what he said in one of our studies was that what you need to do with 1 Corinthians is look at it again and put your name in front of it. Or put I. I am patient and I am kind. And I'm not jealous. Rob does not brag. Alex is not arrogant. Nick doesn't act unbecoming, doesn't act rude. You know, if you put your name in front of all of that, I get kind of choked up a little bit. Because I'm like, I don't know. Do I believe all? You know, am I living this example of agape love in my life, in the way that I live with others? So anyway, I wanted to give a plug for Ben's magnetic card here. It actually came in, although I think he said he left off one of these. I can't remember what it was. Okay. All right. So, the fruits of the Spirit, Galatians 5. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Again, some of these we've already looked at. But some of these, joy. Is there joy in your home? Is it a happy home? It should be. If it's God designed and God built, and we're trying to be God-like in the way that we live our lives and we treat one another, there should be a lot of joy, a lot of happiness. Is there peace? Well, that could be depending on when the kids get home and depending at night time. But you know what I'm talking about. Is there true peace? As far as it depends on us, we should be at peace. Oh, right? Is there goodness, faithfulness? Faithfulness. Is there faithfulness in your home? Have you invited Jesus into your home? Have you invited him to the mealtime? Have you invited him to bedtime? Have you invited him to your recreation? Is he there? Is there lessons and teachings that you're sharing with your spouse and with your children about what God thinks about our home and how we're to be faithful? And then, are we showing gentleness? Fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath. Are you being gentle? Are you overbearing, being in self-control? All right. The Christian virtues, these are really, just as they show up in 2 Peter, they're building blocks, aren't they? I didn't put into, to your faith, add knowledge, self-control, but there they are. Virtue, how would you define virtue? What is virtue?
Moral excellence.
Yes, that's what I have. It's moral excellence. You think that you want to be excellent in all things in your thinking. So add your faith virtue. Virtue add knowledge. We got a lot of information, a lot of scriptures on how to be a godly husband, a godly father, wife. So are you are you looking at those scriptures? Are you going, man, I need to work on that? Self-control, obviously, is important. Perseverance, love never fails, right? You don't give up, you don't quit. Godliness, brotherly kindness, and love. Okay? If we live by the Spirit, let us also walk by the Spirit. If we live by the Spirit, let us also walk by the Spirit. Remember, several weeks ago, I brought up Ezra, and one of my favorite verses is when he's returning to Jerusalem, and he's been studying the law. And in Ezra 7:10, he goes, I've devoted myself to the law, I study it, and then I practice it, and then I teach it. Are we doing that as fathers and as wives? Are we living by God's word? Are we walking the talk? We're not just spouting off the verses, but we're really trying to take maybe one verse, one quality, one fruit of the Spirit, one Christian virtue. So, this week I'm going to work on being gentle. This week I'm going to be working on self-control. If we live by the Spirit, let us also walk by the Spirit. Rob?
Some of us are not as romantic as our spouse would like us to be. And we could all take lessons about that. But I love the musical Fiddler on the Roof.
Mm-hmm.
And you might remember there's a scene where the husband and wife are laying in the bed. And he asks his wife, he says, "Do you love me?" And she is surprised by the question that he would ask that.
Yeah.
And she says, "Do I love you? I cook your meals, I wash your clothes, I do this, I do that." I think it is good for us to express our love, to acknowledge our love. But I think it's good, as 1 Corinthians 13 would say it, that actions speak louder than words. The guys that are real good with all words and with romantic gestures may not be showing love in other ways, may not be demonstrating love in more practical ways on a daily basis. And we need to remember that.
That's a good thought to close our class. That, and at the end, what does she finally say to him? I love you. And you need to hear that. So, all right, thank you for your attention. And next week, you've got your homework at the bottom of your lesson sheet. We're going to be looking at household habits. Habits of the household. What does that look like? Okay? Take a look at 2 Kings 20. And you get a little bit more context of what we're going to be talking about. What is seen in your house? Okay, thank you.